Out here in the garage messing around with the Sportster again. So I'm trying to put this all back together, and I was having an issue where the throttle grip was not moving back and forth freely. Now these are not difficult assemblies to work on. They're pretty stone simple. All you got is you got a couple of cables that run in here, uno dos, and these two cables they hook onto the throttle grip itself. They're on the throttle tube. There's a couple of little slots here and here, and the two cables come up and they got a ball end on them, and there's a little brass ferrule that goes onto the end of each one of those cables and then sits in one of the grooves on this, one for the throttle side and one for the return side. Now the other thing that this has, which is where the pain in the dick comes in, is that it's got this right here, which is called a throttle lock. Some guys call it poor man's cruise control. I would not highly recommend using it as cruise control, because when you go to roll off the throttle when you're in a panic situation, it doesn't roll because it's locked. So what it is that you get that little screw there and there's a spring on it, and then there's a little plastic surfboard thing that's like curved. And it sits in a little groove in this bottom switch housing on top or underneath this grip. So when it presses, when you tighten the spring, it just compresses the end of that grip so this thing won't move. Well, when you're putting this thing back together, if you're not careful, that little surfboard can move either this way or this way, and it'll get jammed in between the bottom switch housing and your throttle grip so that when you tighten it, it won't move. So you got to make sure that thing goes in there correctly. I got it all done now. Thing is running smooth. So we are moving right along on this thing. I got to get the carburetor back on here. Got to get the throttle cables hooked up, the choke cable, fuel line. Got to get a battery in this thing because we still have a big gaping hole. So it needs the battery. I got to get the tires on, which are right there in the corner. I got front and rear tires for this thing. I got nice sticky Dunlops. They're going to wear out fast, but they get really good traction. And I'm a corner carver. I'm a serious corner junkie, so I like sticky tires. And then I got to get the fuel tank back on, which is right there. Get some fuel in it. Start it up. Finish the service on this thing because all the oil is down there right now. And all of that oil needs to be in here so I can change it. And that doesn't happen after sitting for a long while until you actually turn it on, get it up to temperature, and then all the oil goes back up in the bag. So I'm moving right along here, and I'll get a little more progress, and I'll also got to get this one out of here. I think today I'm going to pull that one out and start working on that as well. I got to get the carburetors cleaned on that for my neighbor Don, and I'm going to probably clean out the fuel tank in that thing as well because it is seriously clogged. It may even need a new petcock. The fuel tank is sitting right here. Again, I apologize for all the mess in here. I have too many projects and not enough time, but it is going to happen. So I'm going to get a little more progress going here, guys, and I will see you in a few. Okay, so I didn't want to show you all of that process because it was kind of tedious, but I got the throttle cables all hooked up. Throttle and idle cables run down here. These actually look like they're a bit long, and I have to zip tie them out of the way. But they run down here to the carburetor. Bingo. And this one here nearest to us is the throttle cable. The one on the other side is the idle cable. As you can see, it works. The throttle mechanism works nice and smooth. Snaps back, well adjusted. I like it. Got the choke. Let's see if I can spot it in here. Got the choke right here connected. That one's going to need some adjustment because it doesn't want to stay out on its own. So you let go of it and it slides back in. So that's going to need some adjustment. No biggie. That's an easy task. And making a little more progress in this, and I'll see you guys in a few minutes. So after further perusal, I kept thinking something seemed really, really wrong about those cables and how long they looked. That's because I had them routed incorrectly. The cables are supposed to come forward from here on the inside of the fork leg. Duh. So now the length looks much more like it's supposed to. Fantastic. And there's also no chance of them rubbing on the fuel tank, which is usually a bad thing because it rubs through the paint and you get pissed off. Anyway, going to adjust these throttle cables again. The adjustment is right here. The more you back these up, more it tightens up down here to a certain extent. You got to be careful not to have this thing come right off the end. That would obviously mean that your cables are way too long. But here on the throttle plate, these are the kind of ferrules I was talking about. It's just a little brass thing, and there's a little knob ball on the end of that cable that goes through it. And that brass ferrule slips in through a little slot right here. It's a round hole on both sides of the throttle plate, and then the cable runs through a channel right here and then goes up into this little block which holds it, so you get the snap, 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 snap. Anyway, just wanted to show you guys that. I'm going to get the carburetor back on, and I will see you shortly. There it is, guys. Fuel tank is back on. All is right with the world again. I'm going to have to trim this piece of fuel line, connect it to here, and finish up all the other items I was talking about. And this bike should be back on the road here pretty quickly. So that makes me pretty happy. Anyway, I'm going to button this one up. I will see you guys in the next video. Keep your hands dirty, keep working with tools, and hope you have a productive day. See you guys later.